Good evening and welcome to the January 21st Ogden City Council meeting. We appreciate all of you being here and we appreciate this process which allows us to get your input. We let the roll call reflect that all council members are present, and we'll turn the time over to Vice Chair Gochner for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Wonderful. Jake Wynn from Troop 169 has volunteered to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance tonight.
Repeat the Pledge of Allegiance after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, Jake. Don't go away. Tell us what merit badge you're here working on.
The citizenship in the community?
Great.
Have you got members of your troop here with you?
Yes.
Well, let's have them come up too.
Hi,
Hi, can you give us your name and tell us what you're working on?
I'm Cameron Summers, and we're working on our citizenship in the community merit badge.
Great. Just the two of you today, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, well, great. Thanks for your leaders for bringing you, and appreciate you helping us with the Pledge of Allegiance. You can go sit down now. Thank you. All right, we will now observe a moment of silence. Thank you. Item number 4 on our agenda is a request to be on the agenda. Item number A is Community Council, presentation by Turner Benton. And Turner, can you come up and make your presentation for us, please?
Thanks for letting us come and present tonight. I am not the only one that will be presenting. I will be doing the presentation, but I was very fortunate when I kind of got on the agenda in December. It was before I met a phenomenal group of individuals that were working on a similar idea and concept. And we've linked up, and they've been working on different aspects of the project, so they will answer some of the questions if you do have follow-up questions after my presentation.
You do remember you have 10 minutes, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
Thank you.
So basically the idea that we're kind of shooting for here tonight is we would really like, there's a group of us, there's been about 47 of us that have been participating actively in our organization so far. And what we've kind of come before the City Council tonight to ask for your time and attention to create a process whereby the city would recognize community councils. So these kinds of councils exist in Provo and exist in Salt Lake City, and obviously we want to throw our own little spin here in Ogden on what Ogden's community councils would look like. And what we really envision for the community councils is really just bringing folks in. I won't read our mission statement verbatim, but essentially the concept is to bring neighbors and members of our community in to help implement the goals that the council has set forth in each of the community plans. There's 14 throughout the city, and we really do envision that this could be a process that would spread not just from the organization that we're starting, but to all 14 of these areas. And essentially what the goal is that we have is to really focus on building community identity. So, we're a group of neighbors, not necessarily neighbors. Some folks live in different parts of the community plan area. I live up on the 21st and Jackson area, but essentially what we want to do is build some identity within these communities so that we can really market, we can really be kind of a visual and a public presence when we're talking about our community. So when you look at the reason that we've chosen the Trolley District name, we feel it's not related to any specific political project or any works project. We chose the Trolley District name because it's rooted in kind of the heritage of the area, but then it also kind of paints a path forward for us. So what we can market, when you think of Salt Lake City, you can think of Sugar House, you can think of Bonneville Hill, you can think of the avenues, and they have these very, very unique identities for each of the areas within the city. And we think that by doing this here in the city, we can dovetail the work that Ogden's doing in terms of revitalizing areas and attracting residents and retaining residents here in the city. So we've written some sample bylaws. Again, I won't read them verbatim, but essentially what we plan to do is to file as a nonprofit. And the reason being is that we feel that we can complement, again, what the work that you guys are already doing. So by organizing as an individual nonprofit, we can do some of our own projects without having to, necessarily compete or do anything like that. So what we would do is just work to complement what you're already doing. So when I did the research, I kind of analyzed the strengths and weaknesses of Salt Lake City and Provo's models, because I would say that they're the most functional models along the Wasatch Front. So kind of the strengths of Provo's is that it's very grassroots. So folks get involved, they immediately feel empowered, and that it's not as formal as Salt Lake City. So they don't operate as individual nonprofits, they operate as their own individual organizations, and they're really community driven and driven by neighbors. Now, one of the weaknesses of that model is that they aren't as strong and as organized as we think that they should be. And it tends to lead to kind of some confusion of roles and those types of things. So then moving on to Salt Lake Cities are very organized. I've been to several of their meetings. I watched people get gavelled down at a meeting and told not to speak, and I think that's pretty counterintuitive to what we're trying to do as an organization. And so, but the strength of their organization is that they function as an individual entity, and they really can complement the work of the city. Now, one of the other problems that I've seen with the Salt Lake City community councils is they actually get a review ability to review site plans and those types of things for things going on within the city. And in our bylaws, we don't ask for anything like that, because in my experience, what's happened is you see the community councils try to supersede the will of the city administration or the city employees. And obviously that's not what we're trying to accomplish. We're trying to just simply provide a mechanism for folks to get involved in our community. So we kind of have a roadmap, and we really want to have a conversation about where we need to head as an organization. But essentially what we've done now is we've filed as an organization. We plan to file articles of incorporation to become a Utah nonprofit. We will eventually seek to become a 501c3 throughout this coming year. We have some folks that are involved that are nonprofit attorneys that have been more than happy to help us organize and to do kind of the logistical work that we've attempted to do, and that we will be attempting to do in the coming year. Essentially, what we kind of envision is the city creating an ordinance whereby community councils are recognized as the official community council for a certain area. So this is something that Salt Lake City did when they first approached the idea of community councils, and so they recognize each of the individual nonprofits in the area as the community council. So what that kind of requires from the city is a registrar of organizations. So we have to come up with a process whereby these organizations will be recognized. What staff person is going to be in charge of handling the paperwork or those kinds of things. Obviously, it's not a lot of paperwork, but it's something to keep in mind. Salt Lake City's community councils operate and maintain their own websites. They do link to the city website pretty extensively. They provide their minutes on the city website. They do, those kinds of things. And then the way that we think that this can best help kind of guide or complement what the city's doing is if we had a neighborhood advisory committee. So say each of the chairs of the neighborhood community councils could meet with the mayor or meet with the city council and really talk about issues that are being raised at our community council meetings. That way we can filter or work to organize the thoughts and the ideas that are coming from the community councils, so that we're not just inundating you. And then also requiring transparency of these. So one of the things that kind of concerned me about Salt Lake City's is there's no requirement for them to publish minutes or to publish a budget or those kinds of things. And I would say that if we're being recognized as an official organization of the city or as the official community council, that we should adhere to the same open meeting and public record requirements that the city does. And then, so the way that we've kind of organized as a group, we got started here about a month ago. We've been organizing, we've been meeting people, and we've been having meetings to try to get our feet underneath us. So we feel that we have kind of a good path going forward as a community council, and what we would like to ask of the city council is to kind of start a relationship and talking, maybe a work session, those kinds of things, to talk about what the future could hold for community councils in the city. And I really appreciate the time to present tonight, and I'll defer to these two if there are any questions.
Thanks, Turner.
Time left.
You have a few minutes left.
I thought it was a great phenomenon that about a mile apart, there are two very similar ideas sprouting. That he's on 21st and Jackson, 24th, 26th, and Jefferson. That this is a happy phenomenon, that people are really asking to be involved. Look, we can help. Look, we can do more. And I think you'll find that that phenomenon is not just in the East Central or Trolley District community. And I really would like to go through as a natural extension to the planning process, that they only usually update the community plans once every 7 years. And that makes a big difference. So working with the city council and going through maybe some work sessions and things to discuss what this might look like. That this is new territory for you guys as well as us, and we really appreciate you guys having the patience and the drive to go through this with us. So thanks for hearing us out. And one more thing, I wanted anybody who's here in support of community councils to maybe raise their hand, just so we can see how many there are.
Thank you. I forgot to ask you for your name and address for the record.
Paige Pitcher, 2604 Jefferson. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any questions from the council members?
I have one. I think it's important for the citizens to be involved, and that's how we develop the community and drive our quality of life here in Ogden. The question I have is, when are you meeting? What times and what place? And I would like to be involved with that aspect there if possible. So when is that information?
Okay, my name is Shalay Larson, 614 24th Street. We would love to invite all of you to attend our meetings. Basically, our plan moving forward, we've elected a 7-person and kind of founding board of directors, and the plan is once we're all up and running, perhaps in about a year, we'll have official elections and then replace that board with a fully publicly elected board. But in the meanwhile, we're planning on meeting. That board will meet every 2 weeks, Wednesday at 7 p.m. So our next meeting will be next Wednesday at 7 p.m. And then we'll have kind of an open public meeting every other week. So, February 5th will be our next, because everyone, all 50 people that have been coming to our meetings don't want to come to a meeting every 2 weeks. So those really dedicated, diehard ones of us will be meeting every 2 weeks. But then
You have one on January the 29th then?
It'll be February 5th at 2604 Jefferson.
20, at 7 o'clock.
February
Okay.
5th.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Can I ask? Sure. So do you envision more than one community council or multiple ones throughout the city?
Yes, we envision a community council for every area, every community that is defined on the Ogden City's general plan.
Including a 501c3 kind of?
That would be the idea. And like Turner kind of presented the pros and cons of going with, an appointed actual basically subcommittee of the city council versus an independent 501c3. That's something that we could definitely have some conversations on in terms of the pros and cons. One of the biggest pros is, as a 501c3, we can actually fundraise and go after grants and actually implement our own on-the-ground projects, things like parks and like civic improvements, and actually, there's so many avenues with that. I think that if you have a really active group of people that you can actually get your hands dirty, so to speak, in a good way, not politically bad way, dirty. But the potential, I think everyone's just so hungry to get involved and make a difference in their community. And this would be a vehicle where people feel like, hey, I really am making a difference in my community. And I think that's the advantage to that. You have a certain amount of autonomy as a public service organization, and then a certain amount of autonomy as a policy advisory organization. It's kind of the best of both worlds. So.
Anybody else? Thank you. We already have several council members that have community councils as one of their issues that they're driving. We have one of our legislative projects that is upcoming is one researching the best practices for community councils. We appreciate the information that you've brought, and that will certainly be part of the dialogue that we have as a council. So thank you very much for bringing this information to us.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is Urban Forestry Advisory Committee. And
Harry Huffaker will begin the dialogue and introduce the committee chair who will be giving the report.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And he wore a suit today, so we have to let him talk.
He looks sharp.
Mr. Chair, Ms. Vice Chair, members of the council, Mayor Caldwell, Mr. Johnson, thank you for the opportunity to meet and discuss the Urban Forestry Committee that is very important to our city and to our citizens. The sunset date for the Urban Forestry Committee happened on June 30th, 2012, and this committee represents a cross-section of our community and performs essential tasks and are advisors to the mayor, the administration, the city council, and others. It is the recommendation of the city administration that this committee continue in its efforts to advise city officials on urban forestry and related issues. For historical background, the Urban Forestry Committee was established in 1982 by resolution, and the committee's objective and purpose is to make sure that our planning for our urban forestry is intact, that we continue to keep in mind that our urban forest is very important to us. And I may add that it is important for us to continue the legacy of being a Tree City, USA. The committee chair, Brian Hadley, would like to discuss the mission, membership, and these other activities of the past few years. So, Mr. Hadley.
Brian Hadley, Jefferson Avenue, 36th Street. Members of the council, it's my great pleasure to represent such a diverse group of individuals as I serve with on this committee, truly dedicated to the urban forestry and the welfare of the urban community. In this time where our community is concerned about air quality and things like that, it seems paramount that we discuss the importance of trees and what they can do for us. Everything from carbon sequestration to water runoff mitigation to improving the aesthetics of your home property and the value of your home property. Our committee has been very active for the past 3 years, and it's been wonderful to see how the committee works with the staff of Ogden City to accomplish the tasks and the goals of the committee. Over the past few years, we've worked very closely with the urban forester in some of our key takeaways have been our Arbor Day celebrations. And the interesting part of our Arbor Day celebrations has been our ability to tailor some of the important aspects of urban forestry for each of the committee members, as well as what we see the community's needs and desires. In 2010, we planted 33 trees at Oasis Community Gardens, located on Monroe. And that was an interesting project in that rather than planting shade trees, which generally seems to be the way Arbor Day celebrations are celebrated, we instead planted fruit trees, which was very important to some of our committee members who have been constantly perpetuating this idea of a more sustainable urban forestry for more than just carbon sequestration and some of the other benefits of trees. In 2011, we planted 26 trees at Ron Clare Park, and the wonderful aspect of this project was we had a community that was very involved in their community park, to the point where they had events that the community planned in the park, and you could see the real love of the park. And so as the committee decided on where we wanted to do our Arbor Day celebration that year, under the advisement of the urban forester, we felt it was beneficial to show this community how much we appreciate their civic involvement in their local park. So we planted 26 trees there. And then again in 2012, we planted an additional 25 trees, but this was another completely different project where due to the violent windstorms of that year, we lost a significant amount of that urban forestry in that park, and we're able to go in and plant some more desirable trees that we have become more urbanized in the valley here. In addition, these Arbor Day celebrations are a wonderful opportunity, and I hope the committee members are able to come out to these as we have them. One of the components to what we feel is a successful Arbor Day celebration is to get the community involved, but not just the local community, but also the young people in the community. And each of these celebrations have had that component where we've been able to include young people from a number of different elementary and middle schools to come out and discuss the importance of trees, the value of trees, and protecting the urban forest. Members have also been involved in the city's tree nursery program, where the city has dedicated a certain amount of money to give street trees away to the citizenry. And over the past 3 years, the city's been able to give away more than 600 trees, where the committee was able to go and participate in giving those out. And not only giving the trees out, but giving proper advice on how to plant trees, where to plant trees, and how to have a successful tree planting, which has been a major win for us. The committee members have also supported the staff, the Ogden City staff, in some of the attainment of grants through the forestry, fires, and state lands, where we've been able to use those grant dollars to perpetuate urban forestry movements in the community, specifically hazard tree mitigation and a tree selection guide that we've been working on. I believe last time we sunsetted, one of the committee member or council members asked me at the end of the meeting what tree I would suggest that they plant. And our committee took that into consideration over the last 3 years, and we've developed, and it's not fully printed yet, but this is an Ogden City tree selection guide. And as you browse through it, it gives different sizes of trees, small, medium, large, and it shows trees, and these are all images from the Ogden area of trees that have been naturalized in our community, do well here, which is a major shift in pedagogy on what urban forestry used to be, which was find one tree that works really well and mass plant it. And then we run into all kinds of problems. So we're hoping that this guide, as we're able to get it into publication and get it out into the community, we can help diversify the urban forest. Committee members have also been involved in neighborhood fairs, garden shows, the Utah State University Botanical Gardens, providing documentation, tree planting guides, and other urban forestry information, which has been really a wonderful opportunity. I believe the council has our goals for the last 3 years, and I'll breeze over them quickly. Our goals were to work to fill vacant positions and maintain the committee's enrollment, work with State Urban Forester to get eligible Ogden urban forest trees into the State Historic Tree Register, continue to replace declining trees along 25th Street, be able to review and advise the site plans brought before the Ogden City Urban Forest, or brought before the Ogden City Urban Forester, present content to the Ogden City IT staff, draft educational urban forestry articles that could be distributed to residents through the water bill, which has been a wonderful opportunity for us just to get the snippets out there of the importance of trees, how to maintain your trees. We find that the education happens a lot when people are young in school, but we tend to forget as we progress through life. So getting that out in front of the citizenry is important to us. Submit news articles to local, state, and national media outlets. Schedule annual field trips to see how our trees are doing as we've planted them and go back. And then review and provide technical expertise to the Ogden City Urban Forester on revision of the interim tree list, which is an extension of the tree selection guide that we've worked on. And one other thing that I didn't go over was, and I noticed in the notes that we provided the council, was that the designation of a Tree City USA is not indeed the Utah Division of Fire and State Lands. It's actually a national honor through the Arbor Day Foundation. And Ogden holds the second longest designation as a Tree City USA in the state, which is quite an honor. And we're happy to be a part of that.
Thank you. Presentation.
Thank you.
I would like just to maybe suggest your help when we do our Make a Difference Day in May.
Sure.
I think it'd be great for us to work with you guys and identify areas where we could have different members throughout the community who may want to say, I'd love to plant trees in this part of town and get youth out especially. And
exactly, and that's where we find our biggest success, when we can engage those young members of the community so that when we do plant trees, they don't become vandalized and other things. People understand the true value. But that's a great suggestion.
And piggybacking on that, I'm just curious, do you have plans yet for your upcoming Arbor Day celebration?
I know that Monty has several ideas. The council or the committee hasn't met in a few months because we were waiting for our sunset, and so that's one of our first agenda items.
Keep us posted.
Yes, absolutely.
Questions or comments? Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you coming back up to? I just wondered if it would be well at this point if we could have those who are the veterans of the committee, if you're here, stand up. We have a few, huh? And quickly, why don't you just tell us who you are? Great. It's good to have you guys here. We appreciate you being here. And there's some new members, I think, that you're proposing. Okay. Does that conclude who you have now? Okay, thank you. Great. Thank you, Joe. Okay.
So Chair Heyer, I'll move that we adopt proposed ordinance 2014-3, amending section 323-5 of the code.
I second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Garner, second by Councilmember Stevens to adopt this ordinance. And so this is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Blair.
Aye.
Councilmember Garner.
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Councilmember Wicks.
Aye.
Vice Chair Gochner.
Aye.
Chair Heyer.
Aye. And that passes.
And
Next
then,
item.
And then along with that, if we want to go to the common consent item, you've introduced the whole group.
Yeah, we have.
So I'll make a motion that we approve those reappointments and appointments.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion to approve those appointments from Councilmember Garner and a second by Councilmember Wicks for approval. So this is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
That passes. Thank you. Appreciate the work you do for our city, and that Tree City USA is something we can kind of hang our hat on. That's been really nice to be a Tree City. Thank you for your good work in that effort.
Thank you.
Okay, now we have approval of the minutes Minutes of the regular meeting of October 15th, 2013, and the study session of December 17th, 2013. Councilmember Garner.
Yes, Chair. Higher, I've reviewed those minutes and found them to be accurate to the best of my recollection, and I'll make a motion to adopt these minutes as approved.
Second.
Have a motion to approve the minutes from Councilmember Garner and a second from Councilmember Blair. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Next item is public hearing for the budget amendment for water and sewer utility funds. We're going to have Ms. Johnson come present for us. Welcome.
Just very quickly, excuse me, the purpose of this action is to recognize and appropriate $1.35 million of bond interest and $650,000 of retained interest in the Water Utility Fund, and to also recognize and appropriate $202,000 of bond interest, $3.35 million of retained earnings, and $4.5 million of bond proceeds in the Sewer Utility Fund. All monies will be used to fund capital improvement projects. This action would increase the total city budget by $10,064,274. Any questions at this time?
Any questions? All right, thank you.
I think the important thing is that we're using it for capital improvement projects, and that's very viable to us.
If there's no further discussion.
It's part of the
This is a
public.
public hearing,
It's a
so we will ask for members of the public if they have any comments on this item to come forward. Okay, seeing no movement, I'll look for that motion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Vice Chair Gochner and a second by Councilmember Garner for approval or for to adopt this.
Mr. Chair, that's to close the.
That's to close the public hearing. Sorry. And
now I'll make a motion that we adopt.
let's get the vote.
Oh, yes, that's right.
All in
Let's
favor?
vote. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Okay, thank you.
And now I'll make a motion that we adopt proposed ordinance 2014-2.
I second it.
Okay, we've got a motion by Councilmember Garner and a second by Councilmember Stevens to adopt ordinance 2014-2. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Garner.
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Councilmember Wicks.
Aye.
Councilmember Blair.
Aye.
Vice Chair Gochner.
Aye.
Chair Heyer.
Aye. That passes. It's unanimous.
Mr.
Yeah.
Chair,
Yes.
may I make a suggestion, given the time? I'm guessing that we have members of in the audience who would like to comment on the legislative priorities. That you consider those and get your public input so that we can do that before 7 o'clock.
Okay,
Just
that's,
need to amend the agenda.
that's just for the public's information. We do have a time certain meeting at 7, and we do want to hear from you. So we're going to modify our agenda a little bit to move those things up. So do we need a motion for that?
So I would make a motion that we move item 9, a new business legislative priorities, to occur now instead of ahead of the 17th and Washington Development Incentive Study.
I'll second it.
Just before we vote, public comment might also be included in that. Should we move that up as well? Is there any reason not to do that?
Nope, that, I would be willing to amend my motion to include moving the public comments up too.
Second.
Motion to move, let's see, I guess 8 down to the bottom, then move everything else up.
I move everything else up, including the closed executive session.
Okay. That motion is by Councilmember Wicks and second for Councilmember Blair. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Then we will we'll go to item 9 on our agenda, new business, the 2014 legislative priorities. And
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Cook.
I'll do a brief introduction on this. Annually, in preparation for the upcoming legislative session, the council and the mayor consider legislative priorities. These are items that we want to communicate to our citizens and also to our delegation and those that serve in the legislature what your priorities are. These do, as much as possible, try to align with the actions taken by the Utah League of Cities and Towns and also the Ogden-Weber Chamber of Commerce Legislative Committee as well. So what you have before you is a list of 13 items, and I will not review all of them. Just to note that last week, Council gave direction to add language regarding electronic cigarettes and air quality. And I'm guessing that you may have comments from citizens regarding electronic cigarettes. So if I might, I'll just read that particular one for the record. It is that Ogden City supports amendments to the state code to ensure that electronic cigarettes and the liquid produced for and used in electronic cigarettes are treated and regulated in the same manner as tobacco products. The Weber-Morgan Health Department reports that Weber and Morgan counties are experiencing e-cigarette experimentation and usage among youth at a higher rate than any other area in the state, and which are the highest currently reported in the nation. The Weber-Morgan Health Department also has expressed a belief that the current definition and regulation of e-cigarettes leaves potential gaps in the law that make it difficult for both law enforcement and the health department to take action to prevent the introduction of nicotine to the area's youth from the liquid used in e-cigarettes. That's the whole of the electronic cigarette position. Non-air quality, we added the components that the council requested. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Cook?
And you do have public input on this item.
Okay. Well, we will now accept public input. We would ask, however, that we are interested in your viewpoint. It's not important that we know how many of you have the viewpoint, but if you have a fresh viewpoint, we'd love to hear it. So if you'd like to come up, we would ask you to do that and give us your name and address for the record, and you'll get 3 minutes for your comments. So.
I'm David Crosby, and I'm very sick and tired of this Ogden City judicial system. They won't do their job at all. Same with Weber County Sheriff. They won't do anything for anybody. Cause I try to call, make complaints about things. They give me third degree every time I call. Then I try to the sheriff's department. Say, no, we can't do that for you. You got to bring it down to us, and all this other stuff. They won't do nothing for anybody, especially me. Right? I'm very sick and tired of having the judicial system, cop-wise, won't do nothing for anybody. Do for me. No, and I want to know what you can do about that.
Can we have someone talk to Mr. Crosby after the meeting, or you want to press on that?
We'd probably need a little more specifics. If you want to talk to me after for a few minutes, I'd be happy to.
I tried talking to the person. They say, don't do anything about it. Just take out the window and it's gone.
Well, you've got the mayor in the audience, here with us today, and so he's hearing your comments. And
David, if you'll let us know specifically what your concern is, we can have you talk with Mr. Johnson.
Okay, my concern is, okay, when I make a call to get some help, like when I had a problem, I get put on hold. Say, oh, you got to hold on. We get a call with you about, no, man, I'm doing it right now, and it's time to help you. Then somebody else calls and says, oh, he's still in his car, and 5 seconds later, there's a cop when somebody else calls. When I call, no answer, no call back, no nothing. Then when I try to serve somebody, have somebody served, The sheriff's department said, oh, that's not our job. You got to bring it down to us. And I said, I have a car to get down there to you. Can't somebody come pick the paper up for me? No, we can't do that. You got to bring it down to us. Then I went down there and then they're closed. Nobody down there. So I'm very sick and tired of the way the cops are doing their job. But I just want something done about it. I'm sick. It's getting third degree.
Okay. So if you're willing, right after this meeting, we'll sit down and talk to you for a minute.
All right, then there's another problem I want to be for council. You know, the old Fred Meyer store down here on 12th Street? I want to try and open a business with the city council approval, you know, for the people for jobs and stuff like that. Like make it like an old skating rink out of it in a burger joint. So the kids and everybody, the teenagers, get off the street and have a place to go on bad days, like instead of hanging on the boulevard.
Okay, Mr. Crosby, we'll talk with you after the meeting. Would that be all right?
All right.
Okay, thank you.
I think it's well, Mr. Chairman, that we're talking about legislative comments at this time, and if they have anything to add to our legislative list, that's fine to do that.
Thank you for that clarification, Councilmember Steve. Is there anyone else that would like to address us on the legislative intents and priorities?
Seeing none, I will go ahead and make a motion that we adopt Joint Resolution 2014-1.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilmember Blair to adopt Resolution 2014-1 and a second from Vice Chair Gochner. And this is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Stevens?
Aye.
Councilmember White?
Aye.
Councilmember Wicks?
Aye.
Councilmember Blair?
Aye.
Councilmember Garner?
Aye.
Vice Chair Gochner?
Aye.
Chair Heyer?
Aye. That passes. We'll now take the public comments. This is an opportunity to address the council regarding your concerns or ideas. Please state your name and address for the record. Limit your comments to 3 minutes. Okay, seeing none, we'll move back up to item 8. I think we can get that done in 20 minutes. So this is 17th and Washington Development Incentive Study.
Mr. Cooper will be
Mr. Cooper
addressing that.
Chair Heyer, members of the council, thank you for your time tonight. I understand we have just a few minutes, so I'll be brief. I have a few slides here I'd like to talk about. Before you is proposed Resolution 2014-2, scheduling a public hearing to allow public input regarding a draft study for the development of property located at the southwest corner of 17th Street and Washington Boulevard. In the latter part of 2013, the administration was successful in negotiating a participation and incentive agreement with BNN Properties LLC for the development of the southwest corner of 17th and Washington. In the red there, it shows the parcels that are subject to that agreement. There's 6 individual parcels, 2.26 acres approximately. Under the terms of the proposed agreement, the city would appropriate $100,000 over a 5-year period to facilitate the development of the property. Prior to entering into such an agreement, Section 1082 of the Utah State Code outlines certain requirements for appropriating funds for a corporate purpose. The statute allows the city council to appropriate funds for any project or organization as long as the council determines that the funding will promote the safety, health, prosperity, moral well-being, peace, order, comfort, or convenience of the citizens of Ogden. The process requires the determination of a few things. Number one, certain value received for the appropriation. Also, the benefits and purpose of the appropriation and how the city's goals and objectives will be met. And also, a public hearing is to be held on the study. We've conducted such a study, and I have got just a brief summary on that. So again, in terms of the deal with B&N Properties, the developer would construct a 3,000 to 4,000 square foot property on that 3,000 to 4,000 square foot building on that property. Also, the tenant is required to produce at least $1.4 million in yearly taxable sales. In exchange for that, we would, it's proposed to contribute to the developer the $100,000 incentive over the 5-year period, which would be 2017 to 2021. In conjunction with the agreement, the developer would be required to bring any delinquent taxes current prior to the approval of the agreement, and also to have the existing buildings on the property now demolished no later than September 30th of this year. As benefit under the study for the incentive, we receive value in a couple of different areas. Number one is property tax. Currently, the taxable value of those 6 parcels within the project area is roughly $946,000. At the end of the 5-year period, so between now and 2021, the proposed taxable valuation would be $2.3 million, considering the 4,000 square foot building that's being proposed and others that would be built next to it or behind it. In addition to property tax, there's a sales tax consideration. Currently, there's an old vacant building there, the Pepsi building. It is vacant, so it's producing 0 sales tax and has done so for quite some time. We believe that as things are demolished, new buildings are brought back to the area, and the user is established at the minimum of $1.4 million annual sales, will realize an $8 million sales tax valuation over that 5-year period. So you can see that both in property tax and sales tax, the city receives quite a substantial benefit. In fact, the benefit proposed in the study exceeds barely the incentive that is given in the same term. There's some indirect benefits. Obviously, one of the biggest one is removing the blight and safety issues that currently exist on the property. We would receive other revenues, albeit small, in fees and franchise fees and building permits, those types of things. During the occupancy of the buildings, you'll see employees that work there have expenditures within the city. Obviously, the construction jobs that are created there, with the project will have expenditures within the city. And then also there will be benefits to the adjacent neighborhood, bringing what is now an unproductive part of the block into a productive activity. So in conclusion, the determination of the study is that the establishment and subsequent development of the project is an opportunity to jumpstart new interest in private development in the immediate area, particularly by reducing the current blight, which is, as I mentioned, a substantial impact. Except for the use of public investment in the form of the proposed appropriation, it's reasonably expected that the desired expansion and growth of the area would not occur, or would occur in an undesirable manner. So it's our recommendation that you adopt Resolution 2014-2, allowing for public input on the study. Any questions?
Questions for Mr. Cooper?
If there's no further discussion, I'll go ahead and make a motion that we adopt proposed resolution 2014-2, setting the public hearing for February 18th, 2014.
Second.
We've got a motion from Vice Chair Gochner, second from Councilmember Blair for approval or to adopt the resolutions to set the public hearing for February 18th. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember White?
Aye.
Councilmember Wicks?
Aye.
Councilmember Blair?
Aye.
Councilmember Garner?
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens?
Aye.
Vice Chair Gochner?
Aye.
Chair Heyer?
Aye, that passes. We're down to item 11, comments from the mayor.
Yeah, a couple things. It was interesting to listen to all the work that's gone into the community councils. I appreciated everybody volunteering their time to come and give their time and energy and vision to that process, and the Urban Forestry Advisory Committee. We have some great volunteers in our community, and tonight just kind of called that out and reinforced how much we appreciate the work that they all do. And second, it's a good week to be in Ogden. Sundance Film Festival's here. I hope everybody gets a chance to get downtown and be a part of that unique event. And then we also have, for the first year, the Fat Tire Global Summit going on at Mount Ogden Park, which will be very unique in its own right, and I think will be a phenomenal partner for years in advance. And then I would encourage everyone to pray for snow as well. So
It's pretty dismal.
it's terrible.
I hear tomorrow.
35% of capacity. We really need the water. Recreational jokes aside, so.
Yeah.
Less rocks, more snow.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. Any council members?
I do have one comment. With one of our legislative priorities, it was mentioned the e-cigarettes. The Weber Morgan Health Department will be having an open house at Odyssey Elementary tomorrow evening from 7 to 8 p.m. to provide information to the public and to seek input on this issue in the community.
Great. Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
I echo what the mayor said. I think community councils are very important to us as a community moving forward in the direction that we want to move forward, and we have the right to sculpture this city the way it should be sculptured and drawn out. Mike Vaughn in today's Standard Examiner made a very nice article about why Ogden is the way it is and the pleasures of actually living here in Ogden, and his article was very well done in that capacity there. So,
thank you. Anyone else? Hey, we're at closed executive session. This consideration of adjourning into a closed executive session.
Mr. Chair, a closed executive session is permissible for the purposes set forth in the agenda.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we adjourn into a closed executive session.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Garner and second by Councilmember Blair to move into a closed executive session. And this is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Wicks?
Aye.
Councilmember Blair?
Aye.
Councilmember Garner? Councilmember Stevens?
Aye.
Councilmember White?
Aye.
Vice Chair Gochner?
Aye.
Chair Heyer?
Aye, that passes. Just for your information, we will adjourn from our city council meeting after the closed executive session. And then a work session will be held in the council workroom immediately following the city council meeting. The purpose of the work session is to discuss the capital improvement plan and parking lots in the MRD zone and council business. Thank you.